You ever have a moment that doesn't scream, but hums, quiet, steady, and wrong? That's what it felt like when I saw it. Just a flash of gold caught in the afternoon sun, barely there, resting on the white bedsheet like it belonged, like it had earned the right to be part of the silence. But it didn't belong. It was a delicate thing, too delicate for my wife, Erin, who hated jewelry. Said it made her feel like she was wearing someone else's vanity. I'd believed that for years, watched her brush off gifts, avoid store displays, never once were more than her wedding band. But this bracelet, it had initials engraved in the charm. Not hers. Not mine. Just an L. I picked it up, felt the warmth of it, the way metal still holds heat even after the body's gone. She walked in a minute later, carrying a glass of water, hair tied up, phone in her hand. Casual. Comfortable. Like she hadn't just left a crack in the floor for me to fall through. "What's this?" I asked, holding it up between two fingers. She stopped. Not a step, not a word, just stopped. Then, the smile, forced, practiced. "Oh, that's Layla's," she said quickly. "She must have left it when she crashed here the other night." Layla, her coworker, the one she always said was going through something. Funny thing is, Layla had never been to our place before. Erin always went to hers. I didn't say that. Not then. I just nodded, slow, studied her. She blinked too often, wouldn't meet my eyes. And that's when I felt it, the slow unwinding of something deep, like a wire that had been pulled too tight finally snapping loose. This wasn't about a bracelet, it was about what it meant. And that night, I started seeing our house differently. Every shadow got heavier, every silence got longer. And my wife, she just handed me my first clue. You ever try to forget something that doesn't belong? That damn bracelet sat in my pocket all day like a secret waiting to burn through my skin. I couldn't shake the feel of it. The weight wasn't much, but the meaning, that was the anchor. That night, Erin moved like nothing happened. She poured wine, made that risotto she only ever made when she was trying to be present. Sat across from me and asked about my day like we were still in a world where that made sense. I played along. For now. I watched the way her hands moved, too careful with the wine glass, too light on the fork. Nervous hands. Guilty ones. She never asked if I gave the bracelet back to Layla. She never even mentioned it again. I went to bed pretending to sleep, but I stayed awake, counting the cracks in our ceiling, thinking about that bracelet and all the ways I'd missed what was happening right in front of me. I wasn't a fool, I just didn't want to believe I'd been turned into one. The next day, I made a move. I waited until she left for work, 8:14 a.m. like clockwork. Always wearing that same black coat, always checking her phone before pulling out of the driveway. I gave it 10 minutes, then walked into her home office. To be clear, I wasn't proud of what I did next. But trust is like a window. Once it breaks, you stop worrying about fingerprints. Her laptop was locked, but she'd written her password on a sticky note months ago, tucked under a folder labeled taxes. It still worked. I opened her email. Nothing unusual. Then her texts, synced to her iMessages. Most were work-related, some with friends. But one thread stood out. L. No full name, just an initial. I clicked it open. It wasn't Layla. It was someone named Lucas. Messages from weeks ago, then months. Some deleted, most not. Lucas, last night was perfect. I still smell you on my skin. Erin, don't say that. You'll make me come running back. Lucas, maybe that's what I want. Erin, you always say the right thing. I hate you for that. I sat there with a breath stuck in my throat. Not because I was shocked, because I wasn't. Not anymore. I kept reading. They talked about getting away, about making it real. But there was hesitation, always from her. She liked the escape, the thrill, but she didn't want to shatter the illusion of our life, at least, not yet. I printed screenshots. Not out of revenge. Out of self-preservation. Then I shut the laptop, cleaned up the desk exactly how I found it, and walked out of the room with my hands trembling but my spine straighter than it had been in months. That night, I made dinner, kept the conversation light, laughed when she made a joke about her boss. Watched her over the rim of my glass like a man seeing a stranger through familiar skin. She kissed my cheek before bed. I let her. She curled up beside me like it was any other night. And I stared at the ceiling, not counting cracks anymore. I was counting moves. Because now I wasn't guessing anymore. Now I had names, dates, proof, and the one thing she never expected from me, a plan. I woke up with a decision already made. No hesitation, no second guessing. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. Confrontation gives the other person power. It gives them room to lie, to twist, to reframe your pain as paranoia. I'd seen enough stories like mine end with, "You misunderstood." I wasn't giving her that out. Instead, I was going to document. Quietly. Methodically. By breakfast, I had a burner email set up. A private folder on a cloud account. Screenshots uploaded. Messages saved. I backed up everything on a flash drive and tucked it inside an empty cereal box in the garage. Nobody looks inside the Raisin Bran. When she came downstairs, Erin looked radiant. Hair curled, makeup done. She wore a deep green blouse I hadn't seen before. That's how it is, isn't it? Right before the truth hits, they glow like they've already moved on and left you standing still. "Meeting a client today," she said, brushing her coat sleeve. "Might be home late." I nodded. "Want me to leave dinner out?" She blinked, just for a moment. "Sure, that'd be great." She didn't ask what I was doing that day. She rarely did anymore. Our conversations had turned into weather reports, surface level and forgettable. But I was listening now, watching. After she left, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Jack, an old college buddy who now worked in cybersecurity and private tech recovery. "You calling for small talk?" he asked after I reintroduced myself. "No," I said. "I need a favor. And it stays between us." I told him the basics. Not everything, just enough to get what I needed. "You want to monitor her phone?" "No," I said. "I want to know where she's going. I need a clean way to trace location patterns." He paused. "AirTag," he said finally. "Cheap, simple, pair it to an old phone, keep it offline, hide the device in her car, somewhere she won't notice." By noon, I had one in hand. By 1 o'clock, I'd activated it through an account with no ties to mine. By 1:30, I slipped it into the lining of the spare tire compartment in the trunk of her car while she was inside the coffee shop down the street. Quick, clean, and invisible. That night, she came home late. I asked how the meeting went. She said, "Productive." She kissed me on the temple like she was trying to make up for something without admitting it. We had dinner in silence, watching reruns of a sitcom we used to laugh at together. Now we just used it to fill the void. After she went to bed, I checked the location tracker. Earlier that afternoon, she'd spent 2 hours parked outside an apartment complex 20 minutes away, one I'd never seen or heard mention. Not in any story, not in any version of the truth she liked to package and serve with red wine and half-truths. I googled the building. Modern, gated, monthly leases, mostly young professionals. And then I found the floor plan, 1-bedroom loft, balcony. I checked the tenant reviews. One of them was signed, LD. Lucas Drew. And there it was again, that hum, the wrongness that wouldn't go away. She didn't just cheat, she nested. The next day, I drove past the building. I didn't stop, didn't even slow down, but I saw her car, parked right beside his. So now I had everything. The bracelet was just the spark. Now I had the fire. And I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to set the stage. Because if Erin thought she was writing the final act, she forgot who built the stage she was standing on. I started taking pictures. Not for revenge. For record. Every time her car was parked outside that loft, I snapped a shot. I logged the times, the weather, the day of the week. I tracked patterns. Thursdays, always late. Saturdays, never home before noon. She used to say she was at the gym. Now I knew the only thing getting stretched was the truth. I wasn't spiraling. I wasn't drowning. I was studying. Erin thought she'd built an affair around convenience. What she didn't realize was that I'd been built on routine, discipline, structure. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to map her betrayal, detail by detail, until there was nothing left for her to twist. And in the middle of all that, she was still kissing me goodnight. Still texting me on lunch breaks. Still talking about buying new curtains. The audacity it takes to sit across from a man and plan a second life while holding on to the first. God, I almost admired the performance. Almost. One night, I asked about Layla. Still seeing her much? I said casually as we were brushing our teeth. She didn't miss a beat. Oh, she's been busy lately. She's going through a lot. Yeah, I said, spitting into the sink. You mentioned that. She smiled. You're sweet to remember. I smiled back, but inside, I wasn't remembering. I was recording. I already knew Layla had moved to Oregon 2 weeks ago. Posted it on Instagram. New job. New city. Erin didn't even try to lie creatively anymore. But I let her keep talking. Because the longer you let a liar speak, the deeper they dig their own grave. The following Monday, I booked a session with a divorce attorney. A different kind of sharp, older, quieter, but with a presence that didn't need volume to cut. Her name was Evelyn Grant. She didn't blink when I laid it all out: photos, texts, timelines, locations. The bracelet, the apartment, the burner thread between her and Lucas. She just sat back and said, "You've been patient." "I wanted the truth," I said. She nodded. "You got it. Now let's make sure you don't leave this with only your pride." She walked me through options. Separation with cause. Division of assets based on fault. Civil action if it came to that. But mostly, she walked me through strategy. "When do you want her to find out?" she asked. "Soon," I said. "But not yet." She smirked. "You want a performance?" "No," I replied. "I want clarity. I want her to see every lie she built get pulled down, one brick at a time. And I want her to know, I was watching the whole time." So we drafted the papers. Clean, precise, with a clause at the bottom requesting full disclosure of all extramarital financial involvement and assets accrued during infidelity. When Erin opened that envelope, I wanted her to realize two things. 1, I knew everything. And 2, I wasn't the man she left behind. That week, I bought a second phone, just for documenting. I started recording our dinner conversations. Legally, quietly. I wasn't trying to trap her. I was building a museum. The last straw came on a Sunday morning. She came home at 9:12 a.m., hair damp, jacket in her hand, said she went for a run. I checked the tracker. She hadn't left that apartment until 8:47. No time to run, no gym bag, just enough time to lie. That's when I knew I was done pretending, done waiting, done watching. I walked into the garage that night, opened the Raisin Bran box, and pulled out the flash drive. I stared at it for a long time, then walked it to the safe in the hall closet, slid it in, and shut the door. I didn't need to look at it again, because the next morning, I'd be mailing her the papers. And in the envelope, I'd be including one last thing. The bracelet. The one that didn't belong. The one that broke the spell. Because sometimes, the smallest things speak loudest. And I wanted her to hear it echo. The morning I mailed the envelope, the sky was so blue it felt disrespectful. Cruel, even. You'd think the weather would match the weight of a man burning the last bridge he ever planned to walk across. But no, sunny, clear, birds chirping like it was just another Tuesday. I stood in line at the post office with a yellow padded envelope in one hand and a silence inside me I hadn't felt since the day she said, "I do." Not the heavy kind, not regret, just finality. Like a door clicking shut behind you, and this time you didn't leave anything behind worth going back for. The woman at the counter asked, "Standard or certified?" "Certified," I said. "She'll need to sign for it." When I handed it over, I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I didn't think about the bracelet inside, resting beside the divorce papers and a single note I'd handwritten the night before. "You lied with confidence. I watched with patience. Now you'll watch everything fall with clarity." That was it. No insults. No pleas. No nostalgia. Just truth. Folded, sealed, and sent. I drove home slower than usual. No reason to rush anymore. Everything I needed to say was already airborne, en route to the woman who'd underestimated me from the moment she mistook my loyalty for softness. By the time I got home, she was already at work. I made coffee, sat in the quiet of the kitchen we used to share. The chairs still faced each other like nothing had changed. But I wasn't the man who asked for explanations anymore. I was the man who gave them. 2 days passed. No word. 3. Still nothing. But on the 4th day, a message. "Erin, we need to talk." I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another. "Erin, please. I didn't know it had gone this far. We can fix this." Now she wanted repair. Now that the rope she'd walked across without fear had snapped under her own weight. By the 6th message, she stopped pleading. "Erin, you've been planning this, haven't you?" That one made me smile. Because yes, I had. I'd built a case she didn't see coming. I'd mapped her lies with timestamps and receipts while she danced in another man's sheets thinking I'd never see the choreography. But the best part? The silence that followed. 3 full days with no texts. No calls. No notes left on the fridge like nothing happened. Just the sound of my own life starting to breathe again. Then, Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen to find her there. Sitting at the table like she still belonged in this house. I didn't flinch. I didn't ask why she came. I just leaned against the counter and waited. She held the envelope in her lap, torn open. "The bracelet was unnecessary," she said quietly. "No," I replied. "It was the beginning. And endings deserve to be poetic. She looked tired. Like shame was finally heavy enough to weigh her down. I don't even know where to start. You started already, I said. Months ago. With Lucas. She winced at the name. That wasn't. Don't lie here, I said, my voice cutting through her attempt like glass. Not in this room. She swallowed hard. I thought you'd be the one to leave first. I used to wait for it. Then when you didn't, I think I started resenting you for staying. That's not my fault. I know. I stayed because I believed in us. You left because you didn't. Tears welled, but I didn't move. I didn't offer comfort. That wasn't mine to give anymore. I didn't know how to end it, she whispered. So you didn't, I said. You just rewrote the story and cast someone else in my role. She stared at me for a long time. What happens now? I stepped closer. Calm, steady. Now you leave. And this time, take all of you. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just stood, picked up her keys, and walked out the front door. And with her went the last lie this house would ever hold. The bracelet was gone, but I was still here. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting to be betrayed. I was building something real. I didn't watch her leave, didn't peek through the blinds, didn't crack the door to hear her car pull away. When a fire burns itself out, you don't lean in to feel the last flicker, you let the ash cool, and you walk forward. The house was quieter now, but not empty. It felt like me again. The next few days were simple. I boxed up the things she left behind, scarves, old receipts, a half-empty bottle of perfume I used to love on her skin. I didn't throw them out. I didn't need to. I donated it all. Let someone else decide their worth. I scrubbed the baseboards. Replaced the sheets. Bought new mugs. Plain, no inscriptions. Everything we used to own had writing on it. Love grows here. You, me, always. Lies dressed up as decor. I wanted clean lines now. I wanted silence that told the truth. Around the third night, I got a call from Jack, the cybersecurity friend who helped me with the tracker. You good? He asked. Yeah. He paused. I looked up Lucas. That name again. Still sharp, but dulling by the day. Turns out he's married too, Jack added. I sat up straighter. What? Yeah. Wife's name is Rebecca. They've been together 4 years. She runs a boutique in that same neighborhood where he lives. And just like that, the story cracked open again. Erin hadn't just lied to me. She'd joined a lie. Lucas wasn't her new beginning, he was someone else's illusion. Another man playing 2 roles in 2 lives, probably thinking he could juggle it all without dropping the truth. I ended the call and sat in the dark for a while, just listening to the refrigerator hum. Something about it made me laugh. Maybe it was the irony. Maybe it was the absurdity. But mostly, it was the relief. Because now I knew it wasn't about me. It never had been. Erin didn't leave because I failed. She left because she couldn't sit still with herself. And Lucas? He wasn't a better man. Just a shinier distraction. And those always fade. The next morning, I looked up the boutique. Drove by it. Not out of malice, just curiosity. It was closed. Early hours. But I saw her, Rebecca, through the window. Pretty in a quiet way. The kind of beauty that didn't demand attention, just earned it with grace. She was restocking a shelf of candles, humming to herself. Peaceful. I thought about walking in, telling her, shattering it all. But I didn't. Because I remembered what that kind of shattering feels like. And no one deserves that out of nowhere. Instead, I wrote her a letter. No details. No rage. Just the truth. Rebecca, you don't know me. You don't need to. But someone you love is living a double life. He and my wife shared more than words. I'm not telling you to break anything. Just giving you what I never got. A choice. What you do with it is yours. But I couldn't walk past your window and stay silent. No one deserves to be the last to know. I didn't sign it. Just sealed it, left it in the door slot, and walked away. Some men burn bridges. Some men cross them. I just wanted to leave mine intact, so no one had to drown like I did. That night, I poured a drink and sat on the back porch. The stars were out, crisp air. The kind of stillness that doesn't ache, it settles. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was clear. And clarity? It's the sharpest kind of peace. The day after I left the letter at Rebecca's shop, something shifted in the air. Not fear. Not tension. Something quieter. Like the last gust of wind before a storm finds its center and just dies. I didn't expect a response. Didn't want one. I wasn't looking for drama or fallout. I gave her the truth because it was the one thing I'd needed and never received. But the world has a way of circling back. It was Thursday afternoon when the knock came. I opened the door to find a small envelope on the mat, no one in sight. Tucked inside was a folded note card, pale gray, no name. I opened it. I know. I felt it. Thank you for confirming. I don't know what I'll do yet, but I'll make sure he feels what we felt. I stared at the card for a long time, not because I needed more from it, but because it was proof I wasn't crazy. Proof that the betrayal I lived through wasn't just mine. Lucas had built his life on shadows too, and now, they were turning on him. Still, I didn't gloat. I just slipped the card into the back of my notebook, beneath the entry I'd written the night Aaron left. Then I went for a walk. It was dusk. The kind of light where the edges of everything blur, and the world looks softer than it really is. I passed houses with porch lights already glowing, the smell of dinner sneaking through open windows. Life moved on, even while yours sat smoldering. That used to feel cruel. Now it felt grounding. As I passed the bookstore, Claire was locking up. She turned, caught my eye, and smiled. Evening, stranger. I hadn't been in for a few days. Not since the letter. Not since the final conversation with Aaron. I nodded, walked up. Slow day? I asked. They all are. But I don't mind slow. We stood there a moment, quiet. Then she asked, you look different. I raised a brow. Bad different? No, she said. You look like you're not carrying something anymore. And just like that, I realized I wasn't. I wasn't holding the weight of her betrayal anymore. I wasn't holding on to who I thought she was, or who I tried to be for her. I wasn't even angry at Lucas, not really. They were just reflections of each other. Two people who wanted more, but not enough to earn it the honest way. You want to come in? Claire asked. I was just about to make a pot of chamomile. I paused, thought about it, then nodded. Yeah, I'd like that. We didn't talk about Aaron, didn't talk about Lucas. Just sat at the back counter while the kettle whistled. She poured 2 mugs, and we sipped in silence, letting the warmth fill the spaces where noise used to live. And somewhere in that silence, I realized something strange. I wasn't trying to escape my past anymore. I was just living beyond it. When I got home that night, the porch was still and quiet. No more ghost of her scent in the hallway. No more tightness in my chest when I turned the key. Just my place. My peace. I wrote again before bed. Just a few lines. Healing doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just walks in, sits beside you, and says nothing, because it knows you've finally made space for something that won't leave. I closed the notebook, set it on the nightstand, and slept, not like a man waiting for the next wound, but like a man who'd stopped bleeding. 2 weeks passed. The house stayed quiet. My mornings were my own. My evenings were simple: books, music, the occasional drink on the back porch with nothing but the sound of wind in the trees and the kind of silence that doesn't demand to be filled. I didn't hear from Aaron. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a passive-aggressive email trying to soften her trail of destruction. I assumed she was with Lucas, or maybe not. Maybe the fallout had already reached him. Maybe Rebecca had done more than leave a note, but I didn't follow up. That part of the story didn't belong to me anymore. What did belong to me was what came next. And the way I saw it, next wasn't about rebuilding what she broke. It was about constructing something she never could have touched. That Saturday morning, I got a message from Evelyn, my attorney. Evelyn Grant. Just received final confirmation. Divorce finalized. Filed, stamped, and processed. You're free. 2 words. You're free. I must have read them a dozen times. They didn't hit like a celebration. No champagne moment. No deep exhale of joy. What they felt like was permission. Permission to stop replaying it. Permission to stop holding my breath every time someone brought up her name. Permission to breathe as a man no longer defined by what was done to him, but by what he chose to do after. That night, I went to the bookstore. Claire had already locked the front, but she waved me in when she saw me through the window. I've got something for you, she said, reaching behind the counter. It was a small package, wrapped in brown paper, tied with twine. What's this? Something you left here, she said. Sort of. I opened it slowly. Inside was a journal. Not mine. New. Leather-bound. Blank. I looked up at her. You filled the last one, she said, sipping her tea. Figured you'd need somewhere to start the next chapter. I stood there holding that journal, suddenly more aware of how much weight she'd been quietly helping me shed these past weeks. You know, I said, there was a time I thought I'd never get to start over. She nodded. That time's over. We sat in the back, as we often did. Lights dimmed. The smell of old pages all around us. She didn't ask questions. I didn't offer explanations. We just existed, two people not trying to fix each other. Just present. It was sometime past midnight when I finally got home. I sat on the couch, unwrapped the journal completely, and opened to the first page. No hesitation. No fear. Just ink. You survived her betrayal. You survived your silence. Now survive your own permission. To love again. To trust again. Not her. Yourself. I closed the journal and set it down beside me. Then I reached into the drawer, pulled out the flash drive where all the evidence once lived, held it in my hand, thought about what it had meant to me, how it had carried me, steadied me, confirmed that I wasn't crazy when everything around me had been whispering otherwise. Then I stood up, walked to the fireplace, and dropped it into the flames. It didn't sizzle, didn't pop, it just burned, clean and final. And as the last trace of her lies turned to ash, I stood there, not as the man she betrayed, but as the one she could never break. You learn a lot in the silence that follows the storm. People talk about closure like it's some grand event, like it comes with fireworks or a phone call that finally explains everything. But real closure doesn't ask your permission. It arrives when you stop needing answers. And that's exactly what life felt like now, quiet, steady, mine. A week after the final paperwork came through, I got an unexpected message. Not from Aaron, from Lucas. Blocked number. No name. Just a voice note, left on my voicemail like he didn't even have the spine to speak in real time. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but Rebecca left me. Said she got a letter. You really had to drag me into this? You think you're the good guy now? Get over yourself. You lost your wife because you were boring. I just showed her what passion looked like. I played it once. Then deleted it. I didn't need to keep echoes of a coward. And I didn't owe a damn thing to the man who thought wrecking lives counted as romance. Still, for a minute, I let the weight of it settle. Not because it hurt, but because it proved something I'd quietly hoped for. His house had fallen too, not because I knocked it down, but because I handed someone else the light, and they saw the flames for themselves. That's the thing about betrayal, it's never personal for the betrayer. Just strategy. Just self-preservation. But when the mirror gets turned back on them, when they have to face the ruins, that's when they learn what they've built was never real. I stepped outside that morning with a coffee in one hand and the breeze moving slow through the yard. The tree in the back had started to bud again. Spring had found its way in early, like the world was trying to apologize for what winter had taken. Funny how time works. A few months ago, I thought everything worth keeping was gone. Now I saw space. Room to breathe. Room to begin. That afternoon, Claire sent me a photo, a snapshot of a sign she was painting for the bookstore's front window. Open mic night, Thursday, bring words, not wounds. Below the photo, she'd typed, you should come, or read, or just sit in the back and pretend not to listen. Either way, there's a chair for you. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the message like it was some kind of test. Not from her, from myself. Was I ready to speak something out loud? Was I ready to let other people hear the voice I'd buried under months of silence? That night, I flipped open the new journal she gave me. Scanned the entries. There weren't many. Just fragments, thoughts, scribbled truths. But one page felt right. I read it once, twice, then copied it onto a card and tucked it into my jacket. Thursday came. The bookstore was warm with dim light and quiet laughter. People scattered on floor cushions, leaning against bookshelves, sipping cider from mismatched mugs. Claire smiled when I walked in. Not big, not surprised. Just like she knew. When it was my turn, I didn't clear my throat. Didn't introduce myself. I just stood there, pulled the card out, and read. This is for anyone who's ever held on to something that wasn't holding them back, but pulling them under. Let it go. Not because they deserve peace, but because you do. And you'll never find it in the hands of someone who keeps closing the door behind them. I didn't look up when I finished. Just walked back to my seat. People clapped. Claire nodded. And for the first time since that bracelet first caught the light on our bed, I didn't feel betrayed. I felt heard. Not by them, by me. The seasons shifted without ceremony. One morning I woke up and the air had changed, no longer sharp with cold, but soft. The kind of air that smells like rain and possibility. That morning, I opened every window in the house. Let the past drift out with the stale dust. Let the quiet in. There was a time I would have saved voicemails, hoarded texts, kept a folder of proof just in case the story ever needed retelling. But now I didn't need receipts. Because I wasn't buying back anything she broke. A week after open mic night, I got a letter in the mail. Not an envelope, not typed, just a card, handwritten, and for a moment, I thought it might have been from her. But when I flipped it open, the signature told me otherwise. Rebecca. I left him. I waited too long to believe what I knew, but your letter helped me see it wasn't just a bad stretch of marriage. It was a lie told in chapters. You didn't just warn me, you gave me my mirror back. Thank you for that. Whatever you're healing from, I hope it gives you more than peace. I hope it gives you someone who never makes you question the way you give love. I stood there with that card in my hands, the afternoon light slicing across the kitchen tile, and I let myself feel it. Not guilt, not pride, just connection. Two people who'd survived the same storm in different houses. Both still standing. I slipped the letter into the new journal. Not as a keepsake, as a reminder. That truth passed forward doesn't just destroy. Sometimes, it saves. Claire and I never labeled what we were. We just kept showing up. Coffee in the morning. Books shared at midnight. Laughter that didn't come from effort, but ease. The kind of comfort that doesn't demand permission. One night, she brought over dinner, lasagna, salad, that warm bread she always said she accidentally burned on purpose. We sat on the porch while the sun dipped behind the rooftops. I've seen a lot of broken people, she said, folding her legs beneath her. You don't seem broken. I took a sip of my drink. Thought about it. I think I was, I said. But the breaking wasn't the end. It was just the part that made room. She looked over. Room for what? For better, I said. For truth. For peace. For something that doesn't require me to shrink to fit. She smiled. Then I hope whoever ends up with you understands that. I looked right at her. They will. That night, after she left, I pulled out the journal for the last time. Not to mourn. Not to process. But to finish. There was a bracelet once. A golden glint on a white sheet. That's where the unraveling started. Not with yelling. Not with blame. But with knowing. And from that knowing came silence. From silence, clarity. From clarity, action. And from action, a life no longer built on someone else's script. You didn't ruin me. You revealed me. And I'm grateful. Because now, I write the story. And this time, it doesn't end with betrayal. It begins with me. I closed the journal, tied the leather string around it, slid it into the drawer where the old one used to be. Then I turned off the lights, walked through the house, my house, and felt the floor steady beneath me. Not because I was bracing for anything, but because nothing was pulling me down anymore. Aaron was gone. Lucas was gone. But I was still here. And for the first time, that wasn't the sad part of the story. It was the start of a better one.